You are listening to an AI-narrated, complete short story. If you'd prefer to read it, the link for the ebook edition is in the description. Snowed Under with Mr. Scrooge. A sweet rom-com short. By Mazy Morris. This is a work of fiction. Copyright 2022 Mazy Morris. Mitchell. When my assistant, Samantha, suggested that I get out of town a few days before Christmas, I should have realized that she was up to something. When I found out that the place where Sam had made a reservation for me was owned by her sister, Agatha, I knew she was determined to do a little matchmaking. I think Sam noticed a while back that I'm weirdly interested in her younger sister. Is it weird to develop a crush on someone's voice? Is it creepy to like how someone giggles on speakerphone when they don't know you're listening? That's exactly how I feel about Sam's sister, Agatha. I've never met the woman, and yet, I've somehow worked myself up into a state of being half in love with her. There may be something wrong with me. Agatha Frost knows I'm coming to spend Christmas week in one of her cabins for a little snowy peace and quiet. I've been promised a porch and a fireplace and a view of an ice-covered pond. Agatha knows I'm her sister's boss. She doesn't know I have a little crush on her. Now, as my copter touches down on the small pad 10 miles from Frost Farm cabins, I realize that I may have allowed myself to be coaxed into an awkward situation. The SUV with heavy-duty snow tires I rented to drive out to the farm is waiting for me with the engine running and the heater going. All the way to Frost Farm, I consider what I'm going to say to Agatha, but when I get there, all my carefully rehearsed lines go right out of my mind. When I'm standing on the porch of Agatha's cabin, which doubles as her office, and introduce myself, I realize that Sam made a massive miscalculation when she insisted that her sister Agatha would be happy to finally meet me. Agatha. I check my reservations for the third time and come to the same conclusion. My memory is not failing me. I have not made a mistake. The ridiculously handsome man who just happens to be my sister's boss is supposed to be arriving next week. Unfortunately, it is not next week yet, and Mitchell Murphy is standing at the foot of the short stairs leading up to my tiny log and stone cabin, looking mighty put out. He insists that he has a reservation for the next 7 nights. You do have a reservation for 7 nights, I tell him for the third time. But it's for next week, not this week. I double-checked with Samantha, Mr. Murphy insists. He's staring at my snowman Christmas sweater with the pom-pom eyes and the carrot nose that sticks out in the front as if I'm some kind of festive freak. So, I have a collection of Christmas sweaters of questionable taste. The world is a pretty gloomy place at times, and there's nothing wrong with brightening up someone else's day with a little humorous fashion. Mitchell Murphy's day doesn't appear to have been brightened by my snowman sweater, however. Sam warned me that Mr. Murphy isn't into Christmas, but his disdain for my jolly sweater is jarring. As he stares, he says, I take it that Christmas must be your favorite holiday. He says it in the same tone he'd probably use if I offered him a sandwich made from store-brand white bread and those processed cheese slices that come individually wrapped in plastic. I decide to start calling him Mr. Scrooge in my head. Mr. Scrooge would probably break out in hives if I offered him instant hot chocolate, so I won't. If he drinks hot chocolate, which seems doubtful, he probably only drinks it made from melting together imported 100% dark cocoa, heavy cream, raw sugar, and a splash of very expensive whiskey. If Mr. Scrooge drinks hot chocolate, it's probably been prepared by his personal chef. I'm not his personal chef. I don't care how filthy rich he is. I won't humiliate myself on the off chance I can get Mitchell Murphy to keep me out of foreclosure. I don't want to be beholden to a man like that. I don't know what Samantha was thinking. She'd suggested that she get Mitchell Murphy up to Frost Farms in the hopes that he'll be charmed by the atmosphere, and when he gets back, she'll be able to subsequently talk him into investing in the place. I'm on the verge of foreclosure. I just need a little cash injection. And by little, I mean several $100,000. During the past 6 months, I've been plagued by a streak of colossally bad luck. First, the well went dry. It turns out that's not something that only happens in bad westerns. I had to close down for a month in peak season while I got a new one drilled. It took them 3 tries to hit water. Then, there was that hailstorm that damaged the roofs on 3 cabins so badly that I had to have them completely redone. And don't get me started about that fiasco where I booked half the cabins to a naturists club, not to be confused with naturalists, and the other half to a homeschool mother's retreat. I got lots of bad reviews from both contingents. Sam claims that Mitchell Murphy is a self-made man who likes to help out the little guy by investing in struggling small businesses. I hope she's right. I'm small, and I'm certainly struggling. Unfortunately, Mr. Murphy could be forgiven for thinking I'm completely incompetent. I'm positive Sam told me to reserve a cabin for you next week, not the week of Christmas, I tell him. I hate to throw Sam under the bus like that. It's not like her at all to get dates wrong, especially with so much at stake. I apologize for the inconvenience. I'm about to suggest that I can call around and try to find him a hotel room in the area for tonight, but he already has his phone to his ear. He's talking to Sam, I gather, and after they spar back and forth about whether he did or did not tell her that he wanted to book a cabin with me the week of Christmas or the week after, he hands his phone over to me. Agatha. Sam says. I'm so sorry to put you in this position. It's fine, I say. It isn't fine. I don't think I'll be able to find a hotel room for him within a 50-mile radius of Frost Farm, something Samantha immediately points out. You'll have to let him stay with you, she tells me. With me? I say way too loudly. He can't get back to New York tonight, she insists. His copter can't fly at night. His what? He coptered into Hadleyburg. I see. No wonder he looked at my cheap and cheerful Christmas sweater like that. He's probably wearing all Armani or something. Not that I would know what Armani looks like. So, you'll have to let him sleep with you, Sam tells me. Pardon me? I say. I mean, you'll have to let him sleep in your bed. Are you kidding me? You can sleep on the couch, Sam insists. I slept on it once when I came up to visit. It's very comfy. Sam. Listen, this is too good an opportunity to pass up. Let him stay in your bedroom under that delicious new feather duvet. Bake him those decadent sugar cookies you're so good at making. Take him on long walks around the snowy woods, and enchant him with your knowledge of trees. I'll see what he says, I tell my sister, but I think he'd rather just get back home. Except Mr. Scrooge doesn't object to the idea of staying with me. If I didn't know better, he's hiding a smile when he accepts my offer of the decidedly substandard substitute accommodation. Agatha. This is not working, I tell my sister, Sam, who is laughing hysterically on the other end of the phone line in New York. I should have known better than to try to bribe your mighty boss man, Mr. Murphy, with frosted sugar cookies. He's immune to all things Christmas. Mr. Murphy? Sam says, finally getting her giggles under control long enough to get words out. I thought you were refusing to call Mitchell anything except Mr. Scrooge. I personally feel that calling him Mr. Hotness Von Moneybags would be more accurate, but I would never in a million years admit that to Sam. Sure, the guy is a grouch who hates Christmas, but Mitchell Murphy is easy on the eyes, and according to my sister, who's his personal assistant and should know these things, Mr. Scrooge is one of the top 20 richest humans in New York. Mr. Scrooge's hotness is, sadly, completely irrelevant. But his money isn't. This has been a disaster from the start, I tell Sam. It wouldn't have been so bad if his reservation hadn't gotten messed up, she points out. I don't point out that it was her doing. Now Mr. Scrooge is sleeping in my comfy 4-poster bed with the down mattress and my new duvet while I sleep on the couch in the living room in front of the fire, huddled under my ratty old bedspread and a moth-holy Afghan. Mr. Scrooge had been talked into coming up with the promise of a restorative week of peace and tranquility in his own cozy little cabin overlooking the snow-covered pond. He'd been promised the sounds of silence punctuated by the calls of an occasional stray goose flying overhead. Instead, he's been bunked up with me, with paying guests calling my phone and knocking on the door at all hours of the day and night. Also, according to Mr. Scrooge, I snore and eat too many carbs. Mitchell Murphy can get over himself. I'll eat carbs if I want to. I'm not one of those waifish women he's used to, who spend all their free time shuttling between Whole Foods and the gym. I eat full-fat dairy, and I do not run in terror at the sight of anything made with white flour. Although, if anyone is running in terror at the sight of a sugar cookie, it appears to be me. I'm the one out on the cold snow-dusted porch, pacing and watching the gray sky while Mr. Scrooge sits inside in front of my roaring fire, staring at a plate of cookies that he's too good to eat. I should just send him home before the blizzard arrives, and he gets stuck here, I tell Sam. He's miserable, and so am I. He's miserable? That's not what he told me, Sam says. You've talked. When? Last night. Mitchell described you as charming. Charming? Isn't that just a creative way of saying I have a good personality? You do have a good personality. That's what a man says about a woman he finds entirely unattractive. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Mr. Scrooge thinks I'm a troll. A Christmas troll, probably. I'm still wearing the red and green striped flannel pajamas I slept in. I put an oversized Rudolph the Reindeer Christmas sweater over the top. The nose lights up when you squeeze it. Not that Mr. Scrooge would ever think of getting close enough to try. I'm even wearing big furry slippers that are supposed to look like bare feet. They have plush, brown claws. Yep, there are plenty of men out there who'd jump at the chance at a roll on my featherbed and new duvet with me and my furry slippers, but I'm pretty sure Mitchell Murphy isn't one of them. Plenty of men out there like curvy women. They prefer them, even. I can't imagine that Mitchell Murphy is one of them. I'm pretty. I have big brown eyes, full red lips, and luxurious brown hair. I could totally be describing a lady troll. Or a bear. Why are you laughing? Sam demands. Just giving myself a pep talk and looking at my slippers. What about your slippers? Never mind, I say. I've decided, I'm sending Mitchell Murphy back to New York where he belongs. I don't care if convincing him that Frost Farm is a worthy business enterprise is my ticket out of financial insolvency. Mitchell. I watch Agatha through the window as she paces back and forth and talks to someone on the phone she has perpetually pasted to her ear. She's laughing, something which I've never managed to get her to do. I thought my life was high pressure, but this woman never seems to get a minute to herself. I would not have imagined that running a few tourist cottages was so much work, but Agatha is run off her feet from morning till night. I don't know where she found the time to bake Christmas cookies, but there they were on the counter this morning when I came out of the bedroom in answer to the combined scent of fresh baked goods and coffee wafting under my door. Agatha had held out a cookie toward me, and I'd been looking forward to taking a bite out of it when she'd pulled it back, a look of hurt that was quickly replaced by anger flitting across her face. That had been my fault. I'm so nervous around her that I keep doing and saying the exact wrong thing. Sam says that I scowl when I'm nervous. Whenever I think of it, I carefully rearrange my face into a smile, which probably just results in me looking alternately angry and deranged. I don't usually do carbs, I'd told Agatha right before she took the proffered cookie back. It had been in the shape of a Christmas tree, with green icing and red sprinkles. I'd said I was sorry and lunged toward her, grinning like a maniac, which hadn't helped matters any. Agatha had looked at me like I was a crazy person. I'd almost bent down and taken a bite out of the cookie she still held in her hand. It had smelled like heaven, the scent of Agatha's vanilla rose body wash mingled with the sugary cookie. I wanted to bury my nose in her hair. I'm such a creep. Even after the cookie fiasco, I'm still watching her through the window like one. I'm not normally so hopeless around women. Usually, I don't have to do a thing. They come on to me, and I just choose to accept or reject their advances. Come to think of it, that may be a big factor in why my relationships never seem to go anywhere. I never have to work for anything. I never have to try. I'm trying right now, though. I'm trying to figure out how to get a woman in the world's ugliest Rudolph the Reindeer Christmas sweater to notice I'm interested. She put it on first thing this morning over her red and green striped flannel PJs. That woman can't possibly make it any clearer that she doesn't have the slightest interest in me, but I saw the weather forecast before the internet stopped working half an hour ago. A blizzard is on the way, and unless Agatha Frost intends to kick me out in the freezing cold in the midst of a 3-day snowstorm, she's stuck with me. I hurriedly sit back down in front of the fire before she comes in from the porch, accompanied by a blast of icy air. "I'll take you to the airport," she says. I drove, I tell her. That's only partly true. I drove the last 10 miles out to the farm in my rented SUV, but my copter can't fly in this weather, so if I was going to get back to New York, I really would have to drive all the way home. "Please," Agatha says, her face registering something adjacent to scorn. "I appreciate your understanding about your booking getting messed up, but..." It's just then that she spots the plate of cookies. I've eaten half of them. "You ate the cookies? Was I not supposed to? You said you didn't eat junk like that." "That's not what I said." "Not exactly." Agatha stares back at me in silence. That's more cutting than if she started telling me what she actually thinks of me. "I'm sorry," I tell her. "We got off to a rough start." "I'm sorry, too," she says. "I'm sorry for wasting your time. I shouldn't have let Sam talk you into coming all the way up here. There are lots of places closer to the city where you could have gotten some peace and quiet." It hadn't taken much convincing to get me to come up to Frost Farm, actually. Sam has been talking her sister Agatha up to me for years. Sam caught on a while back that I'm not averse to seeing vacation and holiday pictures of her with her cute, bubbly, curvaceous brunette sister. Normally, I detest when people put their calls on speaker, but not when Agatha is on the other end of the line. I think I fell in love with her laugh before I even saw her pictures. "I've really been enjoying myself," I tell Agatha. "Truly, I have. I don't want to go home yet." "Agatha." Mr. Scrooge is looking at me with his beautiful dark eyes like he's pleading for mercy. I remind myself that no matter how handsome Mr. Scrooge may be, he's not remotely my type. I like the type who will laugh at my silly jokes, shrug off my preference for garish thrift store sweaters, and chow down on a carbohydrate pasta dinner with me, followed up by a nice slice of cheesecake with chocolate sauce. I'm 100% sure that Mr. Scrooge is not that guy. My sister, who's worked for Mitchell Murphy for nearly a decade, clearly adores her boss, but after meeting him in person, I'm having a hard time understanding why. Sam is happily married, so it can't be Mitchell Murphy's considerable physical appeal that's got her distracted from the man's fundamentally disagreeable personality. She swears that Mitchell is the kindest, most generous man she's ever worked for. She's even gone so far as to admit, once when she had a few too many glasses of wine, that she'd made it her personal mission to save Mitchell from those bimbos he's always dating. Sam insisted that Mitchell has never been with a good woman in his entire life. Then she told me I was a good woman. I've tried not to read too much into that since. I haven't asked any questions. I haven't wanted to know. I've experienced zero curiosity about Mitchell Murphy. Up until this moment. Right now, I'll admit to being a little curious about why Mr. Scrooge is not more eager to get the heck out of Dodge or, in this case, get the heck away from Frost Farm. "I don't know why you want to stay," I say. "You really don't have any idea?" Mitchell comes closer. He's sort of looming over me, not that I mind. I don't look up at him, but instead, I fixate on the flames dancing in the fireplace. After standing there so long that I count 4 full breaths coming and going, he reaches down and touches my face with his hand. I think he's trying to get me to look at him, but instead, I bolt away. "I need to bring in more wood for the fire," I say, and slog out to the woodshed through the ankle-deep snow that's drifted across the path I shoveled this morning. Halfway to the shed, I realize I forgot to put on my boots. By the time I'm headed back with my armload of wood, my slippered feet are sodden and coated with clumps of snow, and the front of my Rudolph sweater has twigs and bark clinging to it. "Where are your boots?" Mitchell asks as he meets me halfway back to the cabin. He's taken the time to put on a coat and boots like a sensible person. I blame my lack of common sense on the cloud of pheromones swirling around Mitchell like a cloud. I try not to breathe in and further expose myself to his intoxicating scent, but I have to when he reaches out to take a load of wood from my arms and inadvertently trips the switch on my Rudolph sweater. Rudolph's nose begins to flash. Did I mention that the sweater also plays music? Take a wild guess which song. Mr. Scrooge laughs. I've never heard him laugh. He throws his head back and guffaws with his mouth wide open, displaying his perfect white teeth. His eyes crinkle up. He looks like a different person. A person I could fall for. "You're great," he says when he finally stops laughing. He's right. I am great at making a fool of myself. I'm standing there on the icy path, with my feet freezing into faux fur popsicles and my Rudolph sweater playing Christendom's second most annoying Christmas song, while I keep jabbing at my chest in an attempt to make the vile ruminant shut up and stop flashing. As far as I'm concerned, the number one most annoying Christmas song is "Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer." Given a chance, I'd run over the reindeer I'm wearing just to get justice for Grandma. Running over this sweater might also get it to shut up and stop flashing. I manage to get into the house before I start crying. I am such a hot mess. Frost Farm is about to get foreclosed on, and I've humiliated myself in front of the only person I know who is rich enough to bail me out. Not that he probably ever intended to buy into my flailing enterprise. I'm sure Mitchell agreed to visit Frost Farm just to get Sam to stop bugging him. I can't even handle a malfunctioning Christmas sweater. Why did I think I could pull any of this off? Someone is taking off my snowy slippers and then peeling off my sodden socks. It isn't until Mr. Scrooge is tugging my sweater off over my head that I fully register what is happening. "Make it stop," I tell him. "You want me to stop?" He backs away so quickly that he trips over the coffee table and ends up on his back on the braided rug in front of the fireplace. "No, I meant that," I say, pointing to the Rudolph sweater he still holds against his chest. "This?" Mitchell holds up the sweater. "Make it stop singing." In the end, I crush Rudolph's electronic innards with the butt of the bottle of champagne I'm saving for my solitary New Year's celebration. "That was brutal," Mitchell says when I hold up the mangled sweater in triumph. "It had to be done," I insist. "It was a mercy killing." I'm still holding up the sweater when Mitchell kisses me. Mitchell. I don't plan to kiss Agatha. It just happens. Her face is streaked with mascara where she's been crying, and she's grinning like a maniac. I can't help but kiss her. For once, I want to be the one who makes the first move. I want to be the one who has to work for what I want. At first, Agatha is so shocked that she goes perfectly still. Then I take the sweater she's holding out of her arms, put one hand at her waist, and pull her in close. She melts into me and wraps her arms around my neck. I thread my fingers through her long hair and angle her mouth toward me. She parts her lips and sighs. Agatha Frost may not be very fond of me, but her lips seem to like me just fine. "Wait," she says, abruptly pulling away. I let her pull back, even though I don't want to. "What's going on?" she demands. "We were kissing," I say. "I know that," she says. She's very pink, and her breath is coming in little gasps. "Why were we kissing?" she asks. "We wanted to," I tell her. "At least I did." "Didn't you?" "It seemed like you did." "Well, what was it?" I ask. "What made you want to stop? Why do you want to kiss me?" "What?" "You heard me," Agatha says. She looks perilously close to tears again, and I don't know why. "I like you," I say. "Why?" "I've liked you for a while." Like 2 days. Longer, I insist. Not possible. It is possible. Your sister talks about you all the time. Sometimes when it was just the two of us in the office, she put you on speakerphone. Why would she do that? Agatha asks. That's an invasion of privacy. Maybe it was, I say, but before I even arrived at Frost Farm, I wondered if I might not be half in love with you. The way your sister talked about you, I felt like I knew you a little. You're imagining that you're half in love with me? I've clearly said the wrong thing. It may be the way I feel, but saying it out loud like that has freaked her out. Like. Love. Attracted to. Not that those are interchangeable, I say, but I suspect they are all true. You're attracted to me? Agatha asks as if I haven't just finished kissing her. I don't get a chance to prove my point by kissing her again because Agatha's phone rings. It's Sam, Agatha says as she puts it on speaker. You're on speaker, she tells Sam. I, unlike some people, tell people when everything they say is being broadcast for public consumption. So? Sam's voice comes over the speaker. Have you done it yet? For a second, my imagination goes wild, and I almost tell Sam that we've only kissed, but then Agatha says, the deal is off. What deal? I have no idea what either of them is talking about. Really? Sam says to Agatha. I thought Mitchell had made up his mind before he even left New York. I had, I say. But someone keeps trying to send me home. In the middle of a blizzard? Sam asks. There's not a blizzard yet, Agatha points out, although when I look out the window, I can see flakes falling. It will be in an hour, Sam says. Please tell me you're not going to try and get back home in this weather. I'm not going to try and get home in this weather, I tell her. I'm planning to stay put until at least after Christmas. That's still 3 days away. Surely, in 3 days, I can win over Agatha to the point where she'll at least let me keep trying. Well, I won't keep you two on the phone any longer, Sam says like she knows she's interrupting something. Don't do anything Jeremy and I wouldn't do. I have no idea what she and Jeremy do. Despite Sam's blatant matchmaking, she and I have an otherwise professional relationship. I look over at Agatha, and she's blushing. Clearly, she knows exactly what her sister is getting at. Where were we? I ask as soon as Sam signs off. I'm going to bed, Agatha says, and heads for the only bedroom in the tiny cabin. Does she want me to come with her? It seems too soon for that kind of green light. It's not even noon yet, I point out. You can nap on the couch, she tells me, which isn't what I wanted to hear, but at least I know what to do now. Did I do something wrong? I ask. No, you didn't do anything wrong, Agatha says, looking suddenly weary. I just need a nap and a good hard think. I was up most of the night trying to get the pipes unfrozen on cabin 3. I had no idea, I tell her. No, you really don't, she replies, and I have a feeling she's not just referring to the frozen pipes. Agatha. I'd hoped to sleep for an hour before facing the task of sorting out my complicated feelings, but I maybe get 15 minutes curled up in the sheets that smell like Mitchell before he knocks on my door and tells me that the occupants of cabin 5 want to check out. They can check out if they want, I tell him, but they'd be better off staying put. I come out and tell them the same thing as I stand on the steps of the porch surrounded by whirling snow. Maybe we should stay, the male half of what was obviously not yet a couple suggests. We can't, the female half says far too quickly. Look, I tell them. I've got a guest inside I'd rather not be snowed in with for the next 3 days either, but getting stuck in a warm cabin over Christmas is far better than freezing to death in a ditch somewhere. That shuts them up, and they decide not to check out after all. I don't go back to bed. Instead, I bundle up and go around checking to make sure everyone has a stack of firewood on their porch while I ruminate on my truly unprecedented problem. Here I am, holed up in the middle of an impending blizzard with a filthy rich man with the most mesmerizing eyes and magical mouth, and he seems to like me a whole lot, and that's a problem. I can't start anything with Mitchell until he knows that the whole reason he was lured out here to the middle of nowhere is to get money out of him. I desperately need money, and he has a lot of it. That's not exactly an ethical or healthy basis for a lasting relationship. Against all odds, this man is claiming he's half in love with me, as delusional as that makes him sound. I'd think he is trying to pull off some sort of cruel practical joke if I didn't think my sister was also in on it somehow. I'm pretty sure she messed up Mitchell's reservation on purpose. I'm also pretty sure she wasn't totally unaware that he had a little crush on me when she sent him to Frost Farm. I can't do this. I can't let Mitchell kiss me again or even flirt with me unless I've laid all my cards on the table. The very thought of laying all my cards on the table and admitting what Sam and I have really been up to makes me feel sick to my stomach. Mitchell follows me around to every cabin and insists on doing most of the hauling to get a stack on our own porch. When it comes to my own fire, I'm usually bringing in one armload at a time. Unfortunately, with the snow we are predicted to get, the drifts may cover the woodshed. Just so you know what to expect, I tell Mitchell, the power is probably going to go out any minute now. You mean we'll have to cuddle up in the dark by the fire? Something like that. He has a roguish gleam in his eye, but I can't allow myself to fall for it. We need to have a serious conversation, I say. Fine. I might ask you some uncomfortable questions. Fine. Normally, I'd just let things evolve naturally, I tell him. But you're all the way in New York. I can get here fast, Mitchell insists. He came here in a helicopter, something which he took great pains to keep me from finding out, although his subterfuge did no good since Sam spilled the beans. And all this talk of having already fallen for me is a little intense, I say. Is it? It is. It's a potential red flag, but I'm willing to work through it and find out if Mitchell is for real. Assuming that he's still interested after he finds out that I'm pretty much just a shameless gold digger. I think we should just get to know each other a little before we what? Get in over our heads? Is that some kind of euphemism? No. Then cuddling up in the dark in front of the fire is still on the agenda? We'll have to make up our minds about that when the power goes out. And right on cue, it does. I stoke up the fire, and Mitchell goes in and gets the good duvet off the bed. What uncomfortable questions did you want to ask me? He says as he spreads the duvet over us. It's still early afternoon, but the storm outside is picking up, and the light from the fire feels as welcome as its warmth. I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding what you see in me, I tell him. I'm pretty ordinary. I'm what? Mitchell asks. You're, well, conventionally attractive. Conventionally attractive? Mitchell snorts. I've been called a lot of things. Like what? Insanely hot. Sexy as sin. Devastatingly handsome. Humble? He sobers. Maybe not that. Imagine yourself in my shoes, I tell him. Can I imagine myself in your furry bear slippers? Whatever makes your cookie crumble, I tell him as I take one of the few remaining cookies from my morning's baking session and bite into it. I chew the cookie. Mitchell watches me with a hungry look on his face, and I don't think it's just because we skipped lunch. You have a crumb, he says as he reaches out and brushes his thumb over my lower lip. I nearly combust. You don't have a thing for watching women eat, do you? I ask. I seem to have a thing for watching you eat. It's all I can do to keep myself from jumping off the couch and running out to the porch to cool my burning face in the icy air. I just like you, Mitchell says. I like your laugh. I like the sound of your voice. I like how hardworking you are. I like your quirky style. I like how loyal you are to your family. Clearly, Sam has been talking me up. Mitchell seems to know a great deal more about me than I do about him. I like breathing the same air as you, Mitchell says. I like you for reasons I can't even explain. It's that complicated, and it's that simple. What about my body? I ask. I love your body. Be serious. I am being serious. I'm a little bit covya than the women you usually date. I make this a statement of fact, not a question. What's going on? Mitchell says soberly. You seem like someone who's pretty secure with herself. Why do I get the feeling that you're bringing up body image issues you don't even have to avoid talking about something else? Mitchell. Sam and I conspired to get you down here, hoping that you'd bail out Frost Farm, Agatha says all in one breath, like she's in a rush to get it over with. Is Frost Farm in trouble? Yes. How much in trouble? I won't be able to make my mortgage next month. You want me to have Sam wire you some money? That is the wrong thing to say. I know it as soon as it's out of my mouth. No. Agatha says. I do not want you to wire me any money. What do you want? It was never like that, Agatha insists. Sam said you like being an angel investor in small businesses. That's true. You want me to invest in Frost Farm? No. I've said the wrong thing again. If we, Agatha trails off. If we what? If we became something, I wouldn't want our relationship to have started out like that. I see. Do you see us becoming something? I look into her worried brown eyes. She does see us becoming something. Otherwise, she wouldn't be taking this confession that she'd been hoping I'd invest in Frost Farm so seriously. I changed my mind, I say. I withdraw my offer, but I can put you in contact with someone who specializes in subsidized small business loans. That you back? No, it's just someone I know. I have nothing to do with it. Oh. Now, could we return to our previous subject? Which was? I believe we were talking about how I felt about curvy women. How do you feel about curvy women? I'm guessing I'm the first curvy woman you've ever fallen for. It's true. I have had fleeting relationships with a couple of models and one former Miss Delaware, mostly because they persisted until I gave in. Those women were more bones than curves, but I never fell for one of them, not because of their lack of curves, but because we just never developed the kind of connection I already feel with Agatha. I didn't fall for Agatha because I have a type. I've never had a type until now. Now Agatha is my type. My only type. I wouldn't trade a supermodel for you, I say. You wouldn't even trade me for. I can see her wheels turning. She's trying to come up with the name of a supermodel and failing. I like that about her. I really do like everything about her. I'll discover things about her that I don't. That's what happens in long-term relationships. I'm not so delusional as to completely submit to this feeling that I'm in the presence of utter feminine perfection. The rational part of my brain knows this sensation is only a stop on the road to true love, but all I want is for Agatha to feel the same magic of complete and utter infatuation. We can face reality together as the pheromones fade. That's what I want with her. Something that lasts. But Agatha's not quite in love yet, and it's going to take my best efforts to get her there. I reach down and smooth an errant strand of hair out of her face, grazing the shell of her ear. She shivers even though, between the roaring fire and the duvet, it must be at least 80 degrees. I watch her expression as I take the tips of my fingers and run them lightly down the ridge of her throat. We can talk all you want, I tell her. I'll tell you whatever you want to know, but right now, I'd really like to take a break from talking. I take my fingers from her neck and pull down her lush bottom lip with my thumb as I cup her chin in my palm and force her to make eye contact with me. I'll give you a quota, I say. You can ask me 20 questions a day, but you have to trade them for kisses. Kisses? Yes, and you already owe me. How many? I've lost track, but I say 3. Half of me hopes that by the time we get to 3 kisses, she will have forgotten all about asking me more questions, but after the 3rd kiss, she makes it clear she still has plenty. You may feel like you know me, she says. But I don't feel like I know you at all. What do you want to know? I ask. Tell me about your family. There isn't much to tell. There's always something to tell. I bounced around foster homes, I tell her. A couple of times a year, I'd see my mother, and I lived with my grandmother off and on for a while. Are you still in contact with them? They're both gone. Agatha looks up at me. I can see tears forming in her eyes. Does she feel this deeply for everyone's pain? I'd like to think it's some special connection we have, but I know it's likely wishful thinking. What about your father? She asks me as she turns away too late to hide the tears I've already noticed. No idea who he is. Is that why you hate Christmas? I don't hate Christmas, I tell her. What about you? You're here by yourself for Christmas. Why aren't you with your family? I wanted to be, she tells me. I was fully booked, so I couldn't get away. That's why I'm here by myself. By yourself? Well, I would have been if Sam hadn't sent you up here. Had Sam's insistence that I come up to Frost Farm really been about me investing in the place, or had she been more concerned about her sister spending the holiday on her own? Or had it been mostly about sensing that Agatha and I might hit it off and have a future together? It was probably a little of all three. Well, you're not by yourself now, I tell Agatha. You're stuck with me whether you like it or not. Am I? And you owe me a kiss, I tell her. Epilogue, Agatha. A year later. You know you're going to owe me forever, Sam says as she helps me adjust my veil. Mitchell and I settled on a Christmas wedding at Frost Farm. There are only 20 guests because that's all the cabins can accommodate. You're never going to let me forget it, are you? I tell Sam. Just imagine, she says. If I'd gotten the date for that cabin booking right, Mitchell would have come the week after, Anne. Are you taking credit for that blizzard, too? I ask as Sam buttons me into the sparkly faux fur coat that I'm wearing over my satin dress. Absolutely, Sam says. I have a direct line to the Snow Queen. Snow Queen? I'm looking at her, says Sam, abruptly tearing up. Take a look in the mirror. I look in the mirror. She's right. I look like something out of a fairy tale. I'm tearing up as I shove my feet into the shearling-lined boots that I'll wear out to the edge of the pond, where Mitchell is waiting. When I get there, even though everyone I love the most is standing there, I can only see him. He's looking at me like I'm the most wondrous creature, the most beautiful woman on earth. I love you, he whispers in my ear as we wait in front of the officiant, who's standing on an old runner bob sled that's standing in for the altar. Dearly, beloved, we are gathered here today, the minister says as it begins to snow. The end. Would you like a free ebook from Mazy? Check the description for a link to get an ebook edition of another of Mazy's sweet romantic comedies.